Hey world, I just wanted to pop in and talk about stress really quick. I got a good video from my trainer on the Future app earlier, and I wanted to share what he sent, but I think you have to actually have the Future app and be a Future member in order to see that content. So since I can't do that, I'll do this. So he gave us a good metaphor for stress. And the principle that we talked about was the stress threshold. You have a stress threshold. You have a limit. Some people might refer to it as a breaking point. You're going to react to it differently when you reach your threshold. But the point is, you have a threshold of stress. And it doesn't matter what type of stress it is. It's contributing to the stress threshold. So, for example, I'm holding my phone, so I don't really want to do gestures, but let me try. Do I have a hand? Okay. So, the metaphor that he used was like, imagine that you have a cup, a container, right, in which you can put stress. And all of your stresses go into the same container. To talk like me, that container is you, right? You're the container. So all the stresses go into that cup. It doesn't matter what type of stress it is. It really doesn't matter. It all accumulates in the same container. You. So let's say you have work stress. Let's say you have a pending deadline. That goes into the cup, right? Work stress goes into the cup. Let's say you have, he's a personal trainer for fitness. So he's talking about like the good, healthy stress from working out. That's still stress, right? So dump that in as well. And then you have, the stress of raising kids, the stress of doing domestic work, the stress of trying to look the way you want to look, the stress of how you're perceived socially, the stress of bad relationships, the stress of vehicle maintenance, the stress of not having the car you want, the stress of not living where you want to live. So stress. It doesn't matter what the source is. All the different stresses all pour into the same stress container. We'll call it a stress bucket, for lack of a better expression, because I think cup kind of minimizes it. So everything pours into your stress bucket, and you feel fine up to a certain point, because when it's below your threshold, it's manageable, right? It's manageable. You can manage this level of stress and that level of stress and that level of stress. For example, you could manage financial problems if your career is going well. You can manage career problems if your money's right. You can manage relationship problems if you have money and your career is going well. But when there's high stress inputs from all of them at the same time, it's not a matter of the volume of stress from each particular one. It's a matter of the volume of stress in totality. It's a lot of stress. So a problem that was nothing, that was petty when you're dealing with it on its own, is now a big deal because it's dripping into a bucket that's already full. And when your stress bucket overflows, when you've reached that threshold, something's going to leak out. Something's going to leak out. You're going to express that stress outwardly. And if you don't, it'll be worse. You'll actually leak it internally. All right? And it has a corrosive effect, and you'll destroy yourself internally by letting your stress bucket runneth over internally. So what we need to do is we need to empty the bucket. Ideally, you won't have a completely empty bucket of stress, because that's an empty life. Life is stressful. Life contains stress. If you have a life with no stress in it, you don't really have a life. You just have a situation, you're a Kardashian, right? So you do want some stress because it's useful, it's good for you, etc. For example, the stress of working out or eating healthy. That's stressful, but it's good for you. But when you reach your stress threshold, that's not good. If it spills over internally, it's corrosive, you get sick. If it spills over externally, you're going to damage people, things, and situations around you. In other words, you'll be a bitch or an asshole or whatever, negative social word you would use to describe a person whose personality is outwardly stressing. Here's what I suggest. You don't resist stress incoming. There is no lid on the bucket. Some people try to do that. They try to close themselves off and not allow stress into their life. But that doesn't work because, like I said, some stress is also good stress. So if you block out the bad, you're also blocking out the good. So we need an ecosystem. We need plumbing for our stress bucket. So you can do it kind of like, you've seen those things at water parks. This is the perfect example. There's water always running to the bucket, and the water's like always circulating around this contraption, if you will. And when the water reaches a certain amount, it tips the bucket. And it doesn't spill all of it. It only spills enough to allow the bucket to be upright again. Right? That's a key point. It doesn't empty the whole bucket. Because then there's no place for the new water to go. And an empty bucket might as well not be a bucket. The purpose of a bucket is to hold liquid. So if it's empty, it might as well not exist. But then once it dumps out just enough, it becomes upright again and starts to refill. And when it dumps out, it actually has a cascading waterfall effect that people enjoy. So not only is it a good thing for the bucket to dump every now and then, it's fun. That's how you should imagine your stress situation. So you have a bucket of stress where there's several different inputs into it from your life, your career, your money, your physicality, your relationships, your own philosophy, your own trauma, all that stuff. All that stuff is pouring into your stress bucket. Don't let it